Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Oh, that was some night, wasn't it? Wow. If I look absolutely knackered today, it's because it was a long drive. 8.5 hours up to the Etihad Stadium and back. Got in at about 1:15 in the morning. Then had to do some more work, so I didn't actually go to bed till gone 4. But you know what? It was so worth it. Just nights like that, they've just kind of got that magical feel about them. You know, that's what football is all about. You know, we had one at the King Power Stadium, and I'd say this was probably even on another level compared to that. I feel very privileged as a journalist, you know, to be able to cover. It really absolutely shows kind of the nature of these things. I said to, I think it was Jonathan Veal from the Press Association ahead of the game, kind of just expecting the worst, I think, and just saying, you know, these are the kind of games where it feels like a job. You feel like you're probably going to have to, like, just really dissect something that wasn't too great to watch from a Tottenham perspective. How wrong I was. Completely opposite. It's one of those nights where you absolutely feel privileged to be able to be there. I'm sure the fans felt, obviously, they were paying their way. They made their kind of their way up in rubbish conditions. There was a lot of rain on the roads. Obviously, some of the after effects of Storm Eunice as well. But it was Storm Tottenham, you know, Storm Spurs that came to Manchester, and it was excellent. And it's like, I was so pleased that the travelling fans got to experience that as well, because Tottenham are a funny club. They really are. They can make you absolutely hate them at times. And then you have moments like last night, and it's like a bit like Godfather Part 3, you know? Al Pacino's Michael Corleone standing in his kitchen, talking to his family. I think his sister's there, and Andy Garcia, I think, is his nephew. He's either a nephew or a cousin, I can't remember now. And another one of his advisors. And he's trying to get himself out of organised crime, but the other, you know, mafia leaders, mob leaders don't want to let him out of there. And he just kind of turns and he says, you know, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, kind of thing, like that. And sorry, that was a really bad Pacino impression. I used to be able to do his hoo-ha, but not so good when it's anything more than a word. But you know what it is? That's exactly what it is with Tottenham. You know, just when you think you're out and you think, oh, you know, I've had enough of this, they go and do something like last night, which is just... it was ridiculous. It was. And, you know, Spurs are a bit of a bogey side for City. I think I may have said this well, I've probably said it multiple times, but I think as Spurs fans, you look at it as very much like, oh no, it's Man City. And you see the games where maybe City have slightly run away with it. But actually, I get the impression from the City side of things, they see Tottenham as an absolute pain in their backside. You know, you only have to look at the previous results that have been there. You know, obviously the Champions League game, the way back one, the Peter Crouch Champions League qualification ceiling game. It was a 2-2. Lucas Moura header, was that last season or season before? Obviously this season, early on, Nuno's team beat them on the opening day of the season. I think sometimes, though, you can say in those games, maybe people could say, whether it was right or not, you know, Spurs snatched that result. They snatched that, the 3 points or a point, whatever. No way could you say that yesterday. Honestly, Spurs was superb. They went there tactically very disciplined, well organised, set up. Every player, you know, Conte always says, all my players need to know their tasks. And they did, and they performed them to the letter. You know, you were never going to go there and get much of the possession. Conte said that before the game. You're probably only going to get about 25% possession because, you know, this is a team assembled for billions. They've only won 14 of their last 15 Premier League games. They have, I think, scored, I've got the numbers I'll talk about later, scored loads of goals. You know, even only the other night in the Champions League, put 5 past Sporting to make a bit of a mockery of kind of the Champions League, as it were, because they're that good. But Spurs just went there, knew they were going to have to not have too much of possession. But the game plan was brilliant. And had they not gifted City a couple of goals, you know, that would have been a more comprehensive scoreline. Spurs on the day had more shots on target than City. You know, let that sink in for a moment. With the attacking riches that City have, they were so good, Tottenham. And there's so many individuals. we're going to talk about, but also as a unit, they were absolutely superb. It's so nice to be able to talk about a match like that. And, you know, a Spurs performance like that after what we've had in the last week or so, and, you know, with another 90s movie reference, it reminds me of, you know, there's that line towards the end of Bad Boys. Will Smith's Mike Lowry character he's in the passenger seat next to Martin Lawrence's, is it Marcus Burnett, his partner, who's normally quite a, you know, reserved driver. You know, he's not the greatest in those situations, and suddenly they're in this car chase, and Martin Lawrence's character, you know, absolutely guns it. He just, you know, it's an incredible car chase. He drives like an absolute madman, and Will Smith's Mike Lowry turns to him afterwards and just goes, you know, now that's how you're supposed to drive. From now on, that's how you drive. And it's like, I'm sure Conte would be saying something similar, not quoting Bad Boys, but we're saying to Tottenham players, from now on, that's how you play. Play like that. Play with that incredible discipline, focus, desire that you showed at the Etihad Stadium against one of the best teams in the world, against some of the best players in the world. You know, you came away and absolutely deserved those 3 points. I think if City had ended up with a 2-2 at the end, I think that would have been snatching a point. And I know there's people out there who go, oh, City had so much possession, blah, 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 they did all this. They actually didn't. When you look at what Hugo Lloris had to do, and we'll talk about him later, didn't really have to make many saves. Tottenham's defence just kept City at bay for most of the game. It was one of those where I had some City fan, I tweeted out after the game that Spurs utterly deserved it. And to be fair, I expected like a host of old kind of other rival teams' fans coming on and going, no, you didn't, and all this sort of stuff. I think the one I got was a Man City fan just saying, oh, if you like that kind of anti-football. And it's like, it wasn't anti-football. The football was lovely. You look at the move for the first goal. Terrific football. You know, there was I think it was, someone put on Twitter, I think it was Paul O'Keefe put on Twitter this morning, the elongated, kind of the longer view of the final goal. Bearing in mind Spurs had just conceded a penalty, you look at the whole passing move that surrounded that third goal. Honestly, it was, it was superb. It really was. It's like, that's a team under pressure who should be absolutely gutted that they've just conceded an equaliser they probably didn't deserve to. And, you know, in any other circumstances, probably would be thinking, oh no, City are going to go in and win it. This was the opposite of that Spursy word. The absolute opposite. Spurs just showed this incredible calmness. And you just watch it. It's like ping, 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 header in the goal. It is so good. If that had been Man City, you'd probably have people absolutely crowing about it right now, just saying how incredible it was. And the second goal as well. You know, the cross and the finish, everything about it was beautiful. So, I'm sorry, Man City fan. It's probably one of the, I can't even remember, you know, Man City fan 748321AB, whatever these people sometimes call themselves in their profile names. No, that wasn't anti-football. I can understand you're frustrated your team didn't win. And God, at the final whistle, there was a radio phone-in going on behind us. And my goodness, the presenter guy or a special pundit guest, whoever it was absolutely laying to some City fan who was going off on one because City had finally lost a game. And it's like, no, you just have to accept it, I think. And to be honest, Pep Guardiola wasn't particularly, you know, Pep can be sometimes a little bit like, kind of, I don't know what that expression means, but you know what I mean. Well, hopefully you do, in that he'll sometimes slightly demean another team's win sometimes. To be fair with Spurs, he gives them mostly credit, apart from the Harry Kane team, which was kind of somewhat ironic after yesterday. But yeah, even afterwards, he was very much like, yes, Spurs did sit back, but they just gave us so little space to play in. And then would just hit us. I mean, technically, tactically, why he was playing such a high line against a team that were going to profit from that was an odd one. But I suppose that's one thing you've got to admire about Guardiola, is that he likes to play his way, whatever. But Spurs were excellent, honestly. Conte must have been screaming his head off because he was hoarse as anything after the game. His voice was like that kind of thing. He sounded definitely more Pacino than Will Smith. It took an age to come out for his press conferences. Press conference. Because first you see how it works. You probably won't be aware that we wait for the press conference, but first the manager has to go and do all the broadcast interviews, which are, you know, the likes of your Sky, BBC, foreign broadcasters, Spurs' own TV staff, and also radio interviews as well. So we can kind of see him now doing that. In the old days, they used to do it inside. Now we can see him doing it pitch side. So we can kind of see when he's eventually coming, but it was a long time after the game. Whether that was just because he was enjoying the moment with his players, whether it was because his voice had completely gone and had to wait for it to come back in some semblance of itself. But yeah, it took a while. And bear in mind, if you think about also the preparations for the game, Spurs were meant to be flying up. Obviously, the Storm decided, nah, you're not going to do that. They had to end up getting a 4-hour coach ride all the way up, which left about half an hour after his press conference on Friday. But yeah, it didn't look like a team ill-prepared. If anything, completely opposite. It was one of those classic, there's what a week of Hotspur work on the Hotspur Way pitches with Antonio Conte does. They were superb. Honestly, I couldn't fault any of those players. Even the ones that I think probably other people might fault, and we'll come to them. I think the key for them was even those who made mistakes made up for them with some world-class moments, and that's all you can do. And that is the key thing in football. You're always going to make mistakes, and if you then come back and do something to atone for it, that cancels it out for me. It does. Interestingly as well, Conte, when he spoke to, I think it was BBC, in his interview, he called this the best group of players he's ever worked with in his career as a manager. And you know, you look at the quality he's obviously had at previous clubs, but I think, well, what he seemed to me, actually, I don't even have to think, he kind of said it, was that these are a group of players that just really want to soak up what he's trying to teach them, every single one of them. And he said, you know, it's important to have good players who are good people rather than having good players who can be bad people. And, you know, as I've said before, you know, we had this interview in the week that got kind of pulled and twisted in all kinds of different directions, which is why I put the full context, the full transcript out there for you to read. I'm probably not going to go into that too much because I kind of believe that the full context of it kind of made it not too dissimilar to what he said in the past. But I do think what he's saying with his the good players and good people is that he's now got a squad that, while numerically it's weaker, of course, you've lost 2 players. You know, 4 have gone out, 2 have come in. But I think he feels that now he's just got that harmony. And I don't think, again, I've said this in the past, I don't think this is a slight against the players that have left. I think it's more, if you're not playing and you're unhappy, naturally you're going to be slightly more negative. It's just a natural subconscious thing that just happens. And I think it's very noticeable that the 2 players that have come in, who, you know, there's been some question marks about the signings themselves. You know, I was certainly one that was a bit like, oh, after all of that window, you went to your old club, you know, on the last day. However, first big game, big game, away from home, one of the best teams in the world, both those 2 new signings did very well. And they really didn't look like, you know, they looked like players that were used to playing under pressure at Juventus. And I think that really told. And they both knew their tasks to an absolute T, you know, underneath Conte, and I thought that was quite a telling game for that. You know, there's one game, and consistency is now going to be the thing. But what a game, what a one game. So I mean, kind of let's delve into this slightly more. You know, Conte told me afterwards when I asked him. He said I'd actually asked him about Dejan Kulusevski, or Decky as he likes to be known, and you'll hear Conte call him that as well. I asked him about his performance because I thought he was superb. I thought he was really, really good, Kulusevski. And Conte said, you know, I don't really want to talk about individual players, although he did. I still got some good stuff out of him, which I think I've got to quote in a little bit. But if we are going to bring out one individual in this unit, a superb unit, it's got to be Harry Kane. Honestly, that was vintage Harry Kane, but also something even more. You know, sometimes I think in the past, well, no, I think it's fair to say, in the past, Sonny has been the man that, you know, Man City have nightmares about. absolutely tears them to shreds. And to be honest, he did it again. His movement killed them yesterday. He was so good, Sonny. But maybe Kane has been slightly quieter in that relationship, in that, in the Man City kind of big games. Not last night at the Etihad Stadium. He was so good. It was like, we know what the past was the last summer. We know Man City wanted to sign him. They really, as I said at the time, quite feebly went for him with a club with their financial might. I still understand that the biggest they kind of ever went was this £75 million bid with add-ons that took it up a little bit more towards 100 million, but ultimately flat 75 million up front kind of thing. That's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And you know what? I wonder whether that would have hurt Harry Kane at the time, that they just didn't push hard enough for him or really show the respect I think he deserved. £75 million for Harry Kane, who was at that point top scorer in the Premier League. So he just won the Golden Boot, just won the Playmaker Award for the most assists. He's one of the best players in the world. And bearing in mind, he just spent £100 million on Jack Grealish to release him from his contract. And it's like, what are you doing? And I just kind of, yesterday felt, he wasn't in the first game, was he? I think he was still getting fitter for that game. That was under Nuno, wasn't it, of the season? But it almost felt like, it's a cliche, I guess, that whole point to prove thing. But I just felt like Kane almost went out to say, there you go. There you go. That's what I can do. You doubt me kind of thing? You think I'm £75 million player? Have that, essentially. He was like a whirlwind. We say Sonny has always been the player they have nightmares about. Harry Kane yesterday was their kryptonite. He absolutely was. Man City just didn't know what to do with him, whether he was pulling deep and spraying these terrific passes around, whether it was popping up in the box to score the vital goals. He was phenomenal. Conte, I'll say his quote about him a bit later, but even Guardiola just said, didn't need to show me anything or the people of the UK. We know exactly what he can do. It's like, well, pay more than that if you wanted him. But, their loss is Tottenham's gain. And City, people will quite rightly point out, they've done pretty well without a striker this season. But my goodness, had they had Harry Kane. Oh, it's terrifying. Honestly, it's absolutely terrifying. He can score goals like, like a Lineker, like a Greaves, that kind of poacher's ability. But he's also got the creativity and passing range, someone like a De Bruyne. Someone used the example of Hoddle because he's both-footed earlier. And he's just a ridiculous freak of a player, Harry Kane. He really is. And I think we've started to see in recent weeks him kind of coming back to life, back into the kind of form and sharpness we know he can be. And don't forget, Conte has got him fitter than he's ever been. He said this himself, and Poch pushed him hard. But Kane said the other day that he's fitter than he's ever been under Conte. And you can see it. I mean, that first goal. Let's talk through it. Ben Davies, terrific pass to Kane, picked him out. Saw him running in and picked him out. And it was such a nicely timed pass and weighted perfectly that Kane just swiveled and left foot hit, sent Son away. Son goes in. Very unselfish, plays it across to Kulusevski, who nutmegs Cancelo and then puts it into the goal. To be honest, even if he'd missed, I think it probably would have been a penalty because Ederson absolutely slammed into Son straight afterwards. So that was Kane's involvement in that one. Then we had, I'm trying to think of the order. Then we had let's go to the second goal anyway. Second goal was from a beautiful Kane pass. It was a lovely attempt at a pass. Headed down. Sessegnon zoomed into this little kind of open space, picked up the loose ball, played it to Sonny. Sonny just picked out a beautiful cross. And Kane, you watch that goal from slightly further back. He busts a gut to get into that box. And then just kind of diverts. It's a beautiful kind of half volley. Hits it at the perfect moment as it's starting to rise. And he just sends it into the top corner. Beautiful. Then he had probably the one moment that he could have done better with. Sonny again, I think it was, put him through into the box, took a touch, and just tried to hit a low shot rather than maybe trying to just dink it over Ederson, and Ederson just got his foot to it. Then, obviously, the moment late on when that showed his fitness, I feel. Bentancur, lovely it came at the end of that long passing move. Bentancur, first time ball out to Kulusevski, cuts inside, pings the cross over the top, and there he is at the back post, running in. Kyle Walker, no chance, gets in there and heads it home. And he was like Velcro on his. I used to call Freddie Canute Velcro chest, because the ball would just stick there. That's what Kane was like, and Guardiola said that. He just gave Spurs time. Every time they needed a kind of a release valve, it was Kane. Kane was up there taking 2 or 3 touches just to allow the rest of the team to get out. Honestly, phenomenal player. Of course, he had another moment, didn't he, as well? He fired home really clinically for the goal that was disallowed from by VAR. Kulusevski's shot deflected into his path, excuse me, and he slotted it home beautifully, but was not to be. So, we talk about all these chances that Spurs had as well, and it was really good. A bit of a smirk on my face, actually. It was really enjoyable. Smirk because I enjoyed it. It was very good. That last goal, kind of celebrations down there. I mean, Conte just went mad. He just span around and sprinted towards the dugout. He kind of slammed into and hugged Ryan Mason. Then he came away from him and just sprinted, leapt over a dugout seat and absolutely grabbed Joe Rodon. Joe Rodon was like, really surprised, because obviously he's kind of out of favour, Joe Rodon, as well. So for him to be the one he kind of locked eyes with and decided, I'm going to go and grab you, it was like a kind of like a surprise and also enjoying the moment and the drama of it all in one go. So that was just crazy. There was that weird thing where I've seen a little clip of the 4th official. Is it Craig Pawson? I've forgotten who it was. Looking slightly disappointed when the goal went in. I think you have to give it the benefit of the doubt in these situations. I think it's one of those where you're seeing a split second of a moment. Had the camera maybe focused on him longer, there might have been slightly more context to whatever his movement was. And I think the fact that he was doing it right next to Pep Guardiola, who obviously looked gutted, I think maybe it felt like it was a similar emotion. I'd imagine it wasn't. That would be very weird. But I don't think we'll ever get the full camera angle on staying on him in that moment. But no, it was brilliant to see. I was looking at Kane's stats as well. You feel like Kane hasn't had that great a season because he's kind of been taking his time and warming up. He's got 17 goals in 34 appearances. He's actually, they're the kind of stats that most strikers would love. But we just know with Harry Kane that he's actually capable of even more. He was so good. He was so good. The only slight moment was we watched him doing his post-match interviews down on the pitch. Like I said, Conte has to do. He was limping pretty heavily. It was Kane. I think from what it looked like he took a real whack kind of at the base of his back towards the end, and he was kind of hobbling around the pitch a little bit towards the end of the game. It needed quite a bit of treatment as well. It looks like it's one of those that's an impact injury, you'd hope. And that just, Spurs will patch him up, get him out at Turf Moor on Wednesday night, and probably be a bit sore for a few days, a bit stiff and achy, but I think it looked like an impact injury. And yeah, he certainly didn't seem to be complaining too much about it. He was out doing his interviews, but just there was a bit of a heavy limp, I think is probably the best way to say it. He was superb, but it wasn't all just about him. Like I say, Sonny was superb. It was back to. It reminded me a little bit of the how the Spurs would play under Mourinho in terms of Kane and Son. That Son's job very much was as soon as Kane gets the ball, boom, get on, and he will look for you. And he looked for him a few times. And City just, for all of their quality at the back, and got some terrific players. Obviously, Diaz is superb, and I thought Cancelo is he's such an attacking threat as well. Spurs carved them apart almost every time they went forward. They had to really rely on Kyle Walker's pace a few times to get back. And Sonny was kind of at the heart of a lot of that. I'm trying to think of some of the moments. Obviously, he set up the first goal, got the assist for that, got the assist for Kane for the other one as well. It was just a live wire. He was so good, and him and Kane now, I think it's 36 goals, combinations between them. That was another 2 last night. It takes them level with Drogba and Lampard now as the all-time top kind of goal-scoring duos and the combinations between them, which to kind of say it in the longer term, is who set each other up, essentially. You know, it's got to be a goal that's scored by one of them but assisted by the other. So they are now the joint record holders, and you'd imagine they will become the sole record holders of that pretty soon. Sonny was superb. Like I say, Dejan Kulusevski was excellent. I'd got wind kind of ahead of kickoff that Conte was going to chuck him in for his first full start, and do you know what? He did everything asked of him. He worked so hard. I think scoring that early goal was a massive confidence boost for him. It was exactly what he needed. Lovely nutmeg finish, honestly. You look back, it's one of those where whether he meant it or not, it looks really cool. And he worked so hard. He did a lot of defending. A lot of their breaks, kind of Spurs breaks, came from Kulusevski, either trying to start the move or taking the ball, playing it quickly, running on, receiving it. It was unfortunate with Kane's disallowed goal. He was just a little bit offside, a bit more than made up for it with the turn and cross. You know, I've said myself that we still would need to see a little bit more of him using his right foot. But if he's going to deliver crosses like that with his left foot from the right, whoa, that was superb. It was like the perfect ball. And in the 95th minute, I was so impressed with Kulusevski. You know, we've seen people on social media, he's being written off after his first 20 minutes. It's like, no, he's 21 years old and he put in such a tactically mature performance. I'd say it's one game, but I think he's put in a massive shout to Conte now that he should be starting the coming games. I wouldn't, we'll talk about team selection for Burnley at the end, but I don't think Kulusevski should come out of that team at all. He should not. I know Conte might want to put fresh legs in, but he looked fit. Both he and Bentancur did. I think that's a big bonus, is that Conte's had to improve the fitness of Spurs players, but I think when you come in from Juventus, there's a certain standard of fitness, as it were, and they both, in those final minutes, still were going very strong. Well, as you saw, both were involved with the winning goal. But no, Kulusevski, I was really impressed. He was breaking up some of the City attacks. He was just getting up and down the right-hand side. Superb. Honestly, superb. That was the reason I asked Conte about him. I've got Conte's quote for you. When I asked him, he said, "To speak about only one player is very difficult for me because every single player, they made a fantastic performance. For sure, Kulusevski played an amazing game. He's only 21 years old, but despite this, he has good experience because when you play with Juventus, you have to manage a lot of pressure in Italy. He's a good signing for us. He's strong physically and good technically. It's very difficult to speak about only one player. Sonny was fantastic today. Harry, I think to speak about Harry's performance, what can I tell you about him?" And he laughed. He said, "He was fantastic. But the two midfielders, the defensive line, the keeper, it was good. The people that came in from the bench as well. For sure, when you win against Manchester City, it means you played a perfect game." And Tottenham almost did. It almost did. Just those two kind of gifts that were given away. But otherwise, everything they did was pretty much on the money. It was so good. Both central midfielders, Bentancur and Højbjerg back in the team, worked really, really hard. They both had a few moments of kind of their passing radar was a bit off, but then I saw people going a bit mad about that on Twitter. But I'd say against Man City, that's going to happen. They swarm around you with bodies and you are going to have passes that will go straight to them. What I actually found really interesting, and maybe I just didn't remember this so much, those City fans turn on their players pretty quickly. And I mean, I know all clubs are like this, but I just thought with all the success they've enjoyed and all the amazing football they probably get to see week in, week out, when a City player misplaces a pass, wow, they get on their back big time. I was quite surprised. I mean, to be fair, it may just be the group of kind of fans in front of me, in front of the press area, but yeah, I was a bit surprised by that. It was a bit like maybe they've been spoiled. Maybe they get so much good football that maybe like they always say about Barcelona and Real Madrid fans. It's Spanish football. They demand to be entertained. They're not there to support, kind of thing. And it was a few moments that felt like that. Sorry, a bit off topic because I was talking about Spurs players giving the ball away. But no, both players played very well. Højbjerg absolutely wound up the City fans. He was going down a fair bit, falling over. He was fouled. Actually, there was one that he was fouled and I kind of felt was unfair. Similar actually to City's goal. I felt Sessegnon was fouled in the build-up to that and it just wasn't given and they went up the field and it ended up in the goal. But now Højbjerg just winding them up properly. He did a very tactical foul, took one for the team, which got him a yellow card, which stopped a City break. But I thought he played well. I thought Bentancur, similar, worked incredibly hard. He's got some lovely touches as Bentancur. Some of the times when he spins with the ball and plays it quickly. We had an Italian journalist a couple of seats away from us him and I had a funny moment at the press conference. Which I'll tell you in a moment, but he was talking about Bentancur and he was kind of giving his opinion on him and what he was like at Juventus, which was quite interesting. And one of the things he said is he's not known in Italy for playing those creative through balls, and we were a bit like, he's done a few of those already for Spurs. And actually, last night at the Etihad, he was using the ball well, not least the Kulusevski kind of ball as well. So I wonder whether maybe just his role within the Juventus team meant you didn't see that much because it wasn't his job to do. And whereas in Conte's system, it's required a little bit more. But now Bentancur played well. He was involved in those key moments. Trying to think. Oh yeah, he was involved. He burst up the pitch, didn't he, for Kane's save shot, the one that Ederson got his foot to. Bentancur kind of did some really nice moves to get up the left-hand side and he linked up with, it was Sonny, wasn't it, who then played the ball into Kane. And it's bear in mind he's only just arrived and it's his second start. He's fitting in very, very nicely. And Højbjerg, I've seen that clip afterwards. People have said about him kind of like snubbing Conte. I don't know if it's that kind of thing or not. I think it might be one where he just hasn't heard him. There's some people saying that Conte is shouting a naughty word at him. I think he's shouting a hobby. I think that's what it is. That's what he calls him, hobby. Hobby, Winky, Decky. It is like proper like Teletubbies. But yeah, no, I'd presume, because I think Højbjerg really likes Conte, and Conte also really likes him. I don't think that was a case of him trying to avoid him. I think it was just one of those moments that was possibly a misunderstanding. I don't know. I'm not sure whether it'll get asked about that or not. It's one of those where they won, so we weren't really aware of it until after the presser. So certainly wasn't something we were going to ask. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it. But those two, I thought the wing backs, while not, well, I was going to say they weren't effective in attacking wise, but Sessegnon did play a part in that second goal. He really got up the pitch. What I'd say is for a 21-year-old and just recently 23-year-old, again, very tactically disciplined, very mature performances. They dealt very well with what they had to do defensively. I think that probably suited Emerson, didn't it? I think Emerson, I'd say, is better on the defensive side of things than the attacking side of things. And that was, yeah, it kind of played into his hands slightly more. Sessegnon, I thought that was lovely for him, to be honest, because he got 28 minutes against Wolves, didn't he? And then he had to come off. That slow walk around the pitch. Fun enough, there was a little bit of, I suppose, a nice symmetry to it. He did a similar walk around the pitch because he was taken off late on. And just as he was getting round to the bench, whereas last week it was all about that kind of Conte going over to him and consoling him and explaining a decision. This time, as he was walking and reached the final bit, Harry Kane scored the winner, and you saw Sessegnon sprint and jump onto someone. I think it was Brandon Austin. I think he leapt onto his back. It was just lovely. It was just like what are we, 6 days on? That's a much better way for him to end his day. And I thought he did well. I think Sterling had to switch sides at one point because he just wasn't really getting much joy out of Sessegnon and Davies over there. And like I say, he pushed up whenever he could and involved in getting the ball quickly to Son. Yeah, no, I was really pleased for them. Obviously, if you weren't aware, Sergio Reguilon unfortunately tested positive for COVID. Sure, well, he might be back for Burnley. In terms of, I'd imagine he would be with the 5-day rule now. It should be fine, but it's more if he's got any little symptoms kind of hanging around, whether or little after effects that, certainly I know I've had a few of those since having COVID. Whether they just give Cess another start, I think he earned it. But no, I was really pleased for both of them. I think for Emerson as well. It's he's not had the greatest of times recently, so he put in a really good performance from a defensive point of view. Some of his, I think he did an early cross. Oh yeah, he did an early cross to Cess, didn't he? I don't think it was meant for Cess. It looked like he overhit it, and then Cess couldn't get it back into the goal area. He kind of squandered it off the pitch. But no, defensively, I thought both did very well. But when we're talking defensively, that back three was superb. Bearing in mind that's the second time only that Conte's managed to get Romero and Dyer playing together. Just Eric Dyer, Eric Dyer became the scapegoat. Football fans like scapegoats, and Dyer became one of those. Yesterday showed you just how good he can be for Tottenham and how important he can be in that back line. That was Conte's kind of strongest, first choice back three. They were like a wall up against a flood that wasn't getting past them. They were so good. Dyer just brought in, he's 28 years old. He definitely has become a bit of a leader of that back line. You could hear him kind of shouting at times at them, organising. He won pretty much everything that was in the air. Very little got past him on the deck as well. It was a superb return. And bearing in mind, he's had that thigh problem. He's only played a New Year's Day against Watford, played against Chelsea in that one game he kind of came back for, and then this. So, superb. I thought he was excellent. Really, really good. Romero had some proper world-class moments. He really did. He just had the right amount of aggression, the right amount of anticipation and stuff. Obviously, he had that one moment, which was such a shame when he... it was almost a little bit of over-eagerness, dived in tried to do a block, and unfortunately, just happened to be the way the ball was. It went that way, and he just kind of raised his arm, and no complaints, really. I think it was a handball. It was a handball. But the character, the true test, as I always say, of a top player is how they respond. And in added time, he made this incredible clearance right almost underneath his own crossbar, which Lloris gave him the biggest slap on the back for, because it was absolutely crucial. It was almost like a game-winning clearance in itself. If you get a chance to see it, I don't know whether it was shown on Match of the Day. I don't imagine it would have been. But it was just one of those where he gets it slightly wrong, puts it in his own net. It just had to be dealt with, and it was brilliant. And I noticed he thanked Harry Kane on Instagram for scoring the winner and kind of helping him out, so that it wasn't that he cost Tottenham 2 points. But, I don't think he should look badly on that game. I think he was excellent. And Ben Davies, obviously, I criticised for his rather loose clearance against Wolves, that led to the goal, the second goal. He was faultless, Ben Davies. I know he has his critics out there. If you want to look at how good Ben Davies can be in the system that is really suited to him as well, you look at yesterday. He was excellent. I'm trying to think of any moments where he was beaten, any tiny flaws in his game. And that's not only defensively, like I say, attacking-wise, played the pass through to Kane. Very quick, clever, dissecting pass to Kane, which started the ball rolling for the first goal. He played a superb crossfield ball for Kulusevski for the ruled-off goal, the VAR ruled-out goal. Kulusevski just moved a fraction too early. There was no kind of detriment to the pass. The pass was superb. It really was. So, yeah, Davies, I think it's important that players like that get huge praise for when they do, people sometimes are quick to dig them out when they'll make a mistake. But when they have good games, there's nothing said. And so that way, maybe people only end up remembering the mistakes, which can be few and far between, to be honest. No, I thought Davies was very, 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 very good. I mean, you look at that back line, City have scored 15 goals in their last 4 matches. And like I say, other than 2 little gifts, I don't think they really look like they were getting through. You always feel they're going to because it's City and their quality. But in reality, Poch's old favourite, perception and reality, I don't think it really did. The first goal was such a gift for them, and it was such a shame that kind of Lloris has had these 2 back-to-back games now where he's made some mistakes. This one, I said he was under a bit of under pressure in my tweet after the goal, which some people were like, what pressure? I still do think he was. De Bruyne has kind of slammed into him, technically, kind of fouled him after the ball had gone as well. But it's the kind of one you're never really going to get. But yeah, it wasn't. He'll be disappointed with it. Kind of let it kind of almost just hit his mid-drift as he tried to collect it and it went out. And obviously Gundogan knocked it straight back past him. But again, the measure of a top player is how they respond. And not long after, Gundogan, I think it is, curled that beautiful shot, which was going into the far corner. Hugo Lloris had no right to save it. No right whatsoever. But he produced one of the best saves I've seen maybe this season from any goalkeeper. Absolute. I think he was unsighted as well. I think he saw it late as well. Full length, fingertips of his left hand pushing it around the post. It was incredible. Everything about it. The leap, the dexterity, the strength in his wrist and his fingertips to get it kind of away from goal. You'll see few better saves than that in the Premier League this season. And it was his 400th appearance. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then he was pretty calm and composed from then on. He really was. And again, if a goalkeeper makes mistakes, it's invariably a goal. If a midfielder makes a mistake, there's people behind him to protect him. I just think goalkeepers are always treated a little bit more harshly. But no, I was really glad for him that Spurs won as well, because he was... I do think that he was getting a lot of praise for his consistency, and he's just had a couple of games where he's made a few little mistakes, and suddenly people are saying he's... I even saw someone saying on Twitter, he needs to know he's not first automatic choice anymore. He is. He really is. It's 12 years now. At what point has he not been first automatic choice? And I'm sorry. I'm sure Pierre-Luigi Galini could be a very good goalkeeper at some point, and that has proved it at times at Atalanta. But he is not challenging Hugo Lloris right now for that spot. Lloris is 2 games with mistakes in it aside, has been very, very good this season. He's absolutely earned that new contract. But, you saw Conte get that first choice defence out. And I do think, other than 2 little gifts from Lloris and Romero, City, I'm trying to think what chances they had. Gundogan hit the outside of the post. That's an off-target shot. They had a lot of shots, of course they did. But most of them went into the stratosphere. I'm trying to think of saves Lloris had to make other than that. He couldn't really get near Morris' penalty. It was a very good penalty. Top right corner. You don't really save those. Or you can't save those. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's like, if you could... Maybe there's some I've forgotten, but I can't really think of many. I remember Davies making a terrific sliding block on Foden in the box. He did... That was that. There were lots of interceptions, clearances, tackles and everything. But in terms of shots on target, like I said, I think City had 4 and Spurs had 5. It says it all. It really does. It was a good quote that I wanted to say. Conte came out with, we have to trust in the work we're doing, have to believe in what we're doing every day. I'm enjoying working with this group of players. Every day they show me great availability, the will and desire to improve. They will also come into my idea of football. We want to give our best until the end of the season. My target is at the end of the season to see every single one of my players improving. It means at the end of the season we have raised our level. It says everything. That's what this man wants to do with Tottenham, and let's hope he gets there, because the key now is consistency. I think he can... All you have to do is show footage of this game to all of the players, because like I say, every one of the 11 did their job. All the subs that came on did their job, everything that was asked of them. I'm pretty sure, I didn't look, but every time I said, Lucas or probably more so. Matt Doherty's about to come on, or Darren Sanchez is about to come on. I'm sure the comments were underneath, well, oh no, we've lost. Every one of them came in and slotted in and did exactly what was asked of them. So it's the kind of video you show those players and say, that's how you drive. That's it. That's how you play. That's it. You've got no excuses now. There's no reasons for the performances against Wolves and Southampton. Obviously your mind starts to wander, like, if they'd won those 2 games, they'd be in 4th place and they'd be right up there now. But obviously, the way football works, maybe they wouldn't have gone into the City game with such a point to prove. Yeah, it's all kind of ifs, buts and maybes, isn't it? But it was an exciting performance. It was one that really showed what Conte's Tottenham can be against the big teams, and that's something that maybe Spurs... Sometimes they're a funny team, Tottenham, they are. Sometimes they do really well against the bigger teams. They obviously played well against Liverpool, created lots of chances a few weeks back. For a little while longer, a little bit longer than that. Obviously, it was an understrength Liverpool team, but it was an understrength Tottenham team as well, which often gets overlooked. Probably done slightly better in some of the bigger games. Obviously, done a double against City this season, which is really weird. The champions, and likely to probably be the champions again. But yeah, no, it was great. Wasn't it terrific? It's so nice to actually have a smile on my face, not having a rant about stuff. Conte's, his team selection was spot on. I felt who he picked, the way they set up. Like I say, he put young players in there, like Sessegnon, 21-year-old Sessegnon, 21-year-old Dejan Kulusevski. He put in players into that team who didn't wilt under the pressure, and that will be huge for them. You imagine Kulusevski, he's probably strutting around that. I don't get the impression he's a strutter or walks like he's Danny Dyer or something. But, he will be now thinking, okay, I can play for Tottenham Hotspur. This shirt fits. It really does. I can play against one of the best teams out there, and I can smash it. And I can do everything this manager wants of me. And they should all think that, because, it was excellent. I was just so happy for those fans up there as well. They got the 2 second-half goals right in front of them. I've seen videos of all the limbs flailing. It's excellent. And, maybe that Tottenham faithful sometimes don't feel like their team deserves them. And then, like I said, on magical nights like that, they pull them back in. They really did. It was excellent. Now Burnley away, Turf Moor. If I'm knackered now, I'm going to be absolutely shattered in the week ahead because I've got lots of long... I think I'm doing train journeys. No more drives, train journeys this time because I knew the trains would be a bit mullered yesterday. But trains, a few stopovers. I'm going to experience the delights of Burnley and Middlesbrough as well. Leeds, it's an earlier kick-off, so it's more an early start and getting back. But Spurs have now got to take this on. This has to be a snowball effect. They have to take the momentum from this. And, after being told a fair bit by Conte and also the wider kind of public and Spurs fans themselves that how big the gap is between them and these big teams, this would have been a performance that I think maybe also would have told Conte, so, okay, all right, they can do it. They can step up when I want them to. Now it's to do that regularly. Maybe the gap isn't as big as I thought. Almost maybe laid down that challenge. Maybe that's the way to look at it, and they responded. It was very, very good. But I just hope they don't revert to, Turf Moor. It's like the one place when you've put everything into a match like they did at the Etihad to then have to go to Turf Moor. And Burnley are playing, Burnley have got a bit of an uptick in form as well at the moment. It's not going to be easy. It's really not. And, a cold Wednesday night away in Burnley. I know it's not the expression, but that's what they're going to have. And it's how, the likes of Kulusevski and Bentancur then have to adjust to a very different, very English kind of football match. And be interesting to see how they get on. I know I did the lone roundup last time. It's probably slightly too early to do one this time because some players have played, some players haven't. It wouldn't be the most complete one. The only one I would say, Keon Atete, only because I knew yesterday he got a goal and assist for Cheltenham, and I saw his goal this morning. Cracking left-footed low shot that rockets into the bottom corner. I said it last week. Keep an eye on Keon, honestly. 20, I think it's 20. Is it 20 or 21 now? I think it's 20 still. 6'3", big lad. He is developing like just on a rocket trajectory at the moment. They love him at Cheltenham. You know, he's at Northampton in League Two at the start of the season. Smashed it there. Moved him onto Cheltenham and up another level. I think we'll just see him going to do up the levels. And as I think I said in the last video, Conte has a pre-season, has a little look at him. He might think to himself, you know what? Maybe let's give him a few chances in these friendlies and see exactly whether he can be a bit of a foil for Harry Kane. It's certainly going to be very different to what Tottenham have got. Kind of like Llorente, I guess, in physique. But I think, you know, from everything I've seen of him playing the under-23s matches as well, and now, you know, seeing little clips of him away on loan, he's got skills. He's got good feet. He's very good on the ball. And obviously, look, this is not me saying before those people that maybe don't like me say, oh, you know, he's now saying Spurs don't need to sign a striker because they've got a 20-year-old playing in League One. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we all want our academy players to come through, and I think he could be one that Conte will just have a little look at. And whether it works a different way, maybe Dane Scarlett, they feel they can put him out on a loan. He'll be approaching 18 for next season. Maybe they decide, let's give Scarlett a little kind of loan period like Harry Kane got, and then maybe we let Keane Tete stay and be another option for Tottenham. That way, maybe you can look at a different profile of striker to bring in, one who isn't also a target man, because you've maybe got a Tete to come off the bench. But yeah, let's see what he does for the rest of the season. Again, like Tottenham, it's about consistency, but he's certainly had a terrific season, and he is a very talented young man. So there you go. There you go. I hope everyone was all right in the storm. I hope no one had any big problems. We lost a couple of fence panels. That was, and our internet. That was probably the biggest thing for my daughters, was losing the internet for about 7-8 hours. But obviously, a lot of people had far worse things happening, as we saw. And yes, we were also addicted to Big Jet TV, which was superb. Even the press officer before the Spurs presser started on Friday said, "Sorry to tear everyone away from Big Jet TV." Now that's a man who could just talk into a camera. He was superb. I love that. That was really, really good. But I digress. Tottenham Hotspur, what a team. Nights like that are what football was all about. It was superb. For anyone there, I hope you enjoyed it and got back safely. Anyone watching at home, I hope you loved it as well. Now it needs to be built on. It can't be like, oh, were they so good against City and they were so rubbish against Burnley? They need to take that on and use the confidence from it. So a busy week ahead. We've got press conference with Conte on Tuesday, which should, I'd imagine, now be in person. So I'll get to go to Hotspur Way. Wednesday, heading up to Burnley. Then a brief respite on Thursday when I'll be writing up all my Burnley stuff on the train back. Friday will probably be another press conference. I think it will have to be. I don't think they'll tag it on the end of the other one. So you have a press conference. Then Leeds. Then we're in FA Cup action. And yeah, I think there's a Man U game away. Isn't that far away either. I think there's a home game squeezed in between as well. A rare home game at the moment. But yeah, positive stuff at Tottenham, which is great. That Hotspur Way will be a very happy place to be in the days ahead. And now they just need to capitalise on that. Mine into it. Extract all the good stuff from that and use it. I'm sure Conte will. Incredibly experienced guy, and he knows exactly what he's doing. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I shall head off and maybe catch some sleep, which I really need to catch up on. But yeah, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.